From the Armchair is presented by Raymore and Flanagan. Raymore and Flanagan, a proud partner of the Buffalo Bills, and here to do that with us, former Bills center Mitch Morse, who's also the host of the Monday Mornings with Mitch podcast. And Mitch, a resounding victory that they kind of had to hang on to at the end there to beat the Chiefs, as a play that could have ended the game prematurely went off the right upright and led to some harrowing moments in the end, but it works. And I'm curious, your thoughts going in, because I really felt the Chiefs were coming in on a heater. I did not anticipate them to not play their best game, which I think is safe to say. That's due partly to the play of the Bills, but I thought the Bills were going to have to get 2 takeaways to win that game, and they only needed 1.
Yeah, I think it was just a tremendous, another iteration of what this delicious book that is being written right now between the Bills and Chiefs. Of course, in the regular season, it's been one sided. The postseason has been another. But it was just a fascinating game to watch. It was electric. It was the must-see television for Sunday, and it did not disappoint, man. I thought the Bills played admirably. A physical, well-executed game plan. And yeah, they caught the Chiefs on a day that they weren't able to execute to the same tune as Buffalo. So it was a fun game to watch, and it's a great momentum pushing game into this back half of the season.
We've seen these two teams face off 10 times now, right? And this, I've said this a couple of times. I want to get your opinion about it. Every game of those, has this moment or whatever. This Bills-Chiefs game was really about the Bills' defense more so than any other of the matchups that we've seen. Is that right?
I would absolutely concur with that. One thing that really stood out to me was the pressures that the defensive line was able to get, just due to the fact at times that Pat had to hold on to the football. And then I thought there was some really good timed blitzes. I think of the Benford sack. I really enjoyed some of the rush patterns where they had a guy off the ball who would, whether it was an odd front or 4 down linemen in an odd front, where they would just run as fast as they could, pick the tackle, and give the defensive ends opportunities to get out and make some plays. It was just fun to watch. And kind of speaking on what I was talking about earlier, they brought a physicality. They brought a juice that you could feel it through the television. You could feel it on the field. They wanted this game, and they executed first and foremost, and then they brought the physical nature that you need to compete against a very well-coached and very talented Chiefs team.
Josh Allen completes 23 of 26 passes. They go to 10 different players, but the 2 they went to the most were Kincaid and Shakir. I know you were pretty happy with Shakir's performance. And then, not surprisingly, you as a former lineman enjoyed the run blocking in this one. Expand on that, if you will.
Yes. Yes. I mean, Kincaid is just, talk about a snowball. He is turning into a safety net for Josh. It seems like they really crushed the play action pass under center passing game. It seems to, be alive. And then the dropbacks, 2 huge plays to Kincaid with, amazing pass protection. It comes down again. And I know I've said this 2 or 3 times now, the offensive line, just from play 1 to the last play, just really instilled physicality in the way that they played, and even in pass protection. I think that's something that's looked upon as something passive, and it can't be in this league. And these guys protected their tails off, and then they showed that physicality. But the thing about Khalil that stood out to me more than just his ability to be an outlet on these quick screen game, which I think he's amazing at. He does such a good job of finding those narrow openings and making something out of nothing at times, and also just kind of creating these. He always seems to be falling forward. But, this is a team that consciously made the decision that they wanted to keep running the ball with less tight ends, just shows a different look. And Khalil was asked a lot of times to be that backside blocker on these runs. And, man, I got to tell you, he was physical as hell. His hand placement was great. And in the first drive alone, 2 of the first runs, he was in the backside of those, blocking his tail off. And then there was a quick kind of bubble screen to Ty Johnson. He was a huge catalyst for that. And that was something that just kept showing up over and over and over again. And I got to tell you, I'm all for it. It just kind of shows to the unselfish nature that, this team talks about. We want dudes like at receivers who are going to block their butts off. And Khalil did that and more.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the Bills, we were talking about it just now, they're number 3, I think, in scoring and number 1 in yards. I mean, the Bills' offense is clicking. It's humming. And they ran the ball 35 times against the Chiefs and threw it only 26 times. Now, it helps when Josh is completing 23 of 26, but they ran it 35 times. So people go, well, when you run the ball, you don't score as much. Well, not so fast. Why is it possible for the Bills to do that? How can they run the ball so much and, they got time of possession and they still score a ton of touchdowns?
Well, to your point, Steve, I think you look at it first pragmatically in regards to time of possession, especially against the Chiefs, right? You don't want to give that offense an opportunity to get rolling on the other side of the ball. But what it does, and we've seen a bunch of it, is I don't know how, what percentage of the passes that the Bills do are actual, shotgun snaps. You run the ball from under center over and over again, and you make the defense have to recognize that, and you have to accept that. And what that does is it frees up this play action game, which this team has done such a good job of. And then when you have an opportunity to do these dropbacks, you hit it to Khalil or, those 2 passes to Kincaid. It was great protection. And it just seemed like the good Lord blessed this team with the execution bug in the best way possible on Sunday, and they could do no wrong.
I know you were also a big fan of Cole Bishop's performance. You were not alone. Some people called it his coming out performance, as a young player on the back end that really kind of came into his own through the course of a single game. And, I mean, this team had 5 pass breakups in the game. He had 4 of them.
Yeah, he did such a good job. You got to give the flowers to the man, right? He earned his dues because from play 1 to, even that first Hail Mary, rather, he was making plays. He was being aggressive. You could see that he was in that flow state and he was comfortable. And in the biggest moments of the game and one of the biggest games of his young career, he showed out in the best way. I think about that second quarter where he made those 2 plays on that third down, that kind of little ditch that Pat made in the bubble, and he came up and then that fourth down play, that quick in and out, or out and in rather, from Rashid Rice. He made it a tremendous play, and you could just see what that meant to his teammates. You could see the energy that brought to the dudes. This team's got each other's back, and Cole Bishop really made a statement that he's here to stay. And I was happy as hell for him.
Yeah, it has been a little bit of a roller coaster, as it is with a lot of young players. You haven't seen too much of him since he had the interception earlier in the season on the 2-yard line. Going, is that a Saints game?
Saints game.
Yeah, Saints game. And then, and I think it does bode well that this wasn't just a single play like a spectacular reception. It was play after play after play after play, right down to the last Hail Marys. And I think that's, you want to see the guy do it all the time rather than flash once in a while.
Well, it just takes one time. It takes one time to gain that confidence as a player. Confidence as a player is hard to come by at times and easy to lose, right? It just depends on, the way the tide's going and such. And it just seems like this team has poured into him and the coaching staff's poured into him, and he's got a confidence about himself, which you want at a safety or a cornerback position. And just think about the hit he made on Travis, or my favorite play was that tackle for loss that he made. He could have made that play immediately, but he continued the play. He did not give up on the play. And as a young player, to see that was so exceptional. And it's going, hopefully it's a catalyst for him to continue to produce week in and week out.
And I know the edge rushers made an impact. It did not come without an injury, unfortunately. Last week, they have a great defensive performance. They lose Ed for probably the balance of the regular season. And then Sunday, they get 3 sacks, 15 quarterback hits, and they lose Michael Hoyt for the season with an Achilles. How do you rebound as a team from a loss like that? Yes, we know football can often have season-ending losses, and it seems like the season-ending injuries are up this year around the league. It's been nuts how many guys are just gone for the rest of the season. It's bananas. It seems higher to me. How do you rally as a unit and try to make up for the void that's left behind by a player like that?
It'll be tough, right? You add the human element to this. Yes, Michael Hoyt was only around for a game and a half, but what you were able to see, his energy, his execution, was palpable, man. So my heart goes out to him. It hurts. But there's stuff that these guys did this past weekend that was pretty exceptional. And you saw young guys come in and make those plays, and they're stout in the run. And I mean, if you got guys like a dude like Joey Bosa who talks about, hey, this has reinvigorated my career. Yeah, it stood out to me. The guy was playing the most snaps I'd seen him play all year. He was using every tool in the bag of tricks that he had. He made the big plays in the big moments. And I mean, you had that tackle for loss with the inside move. He was using speed to power. He was using speed to power to these really kind of fun, quick swims inside and out. I mean, look at that, dude. Tell me that's not a guy who's got a little bit of juice still left in him. The team seems to revolve around that guy on defense. And then, I mean, the very last play, you have that Hail Mary opportunity with Pat having the ball in his hands. Everyone's got a little bit of that nervous energy because you know what he can do. You get a guy like Joey Bosa and Groot on the other side who creates pressure so that he's got to use his, he can't put his power behind it and it falls short. So from the very beginning to that very last play, you have guys like that who are going to be these catalysts that we had talked about for that energy, for that execution, that have that proverbial rallying cry around them. Just see how it goes, man. Like you said, it's football. It's the next man up. It's the terrible part of this business, but I have every bit of faith in this team, especially what they showed me this past game.
Last one, Mitch. What do you remember about playing in Miami?
Well, I'll tell you, the sideline on the opposing sideline is about 30 degrees warmer. You pray to God that there was some sort of rain shower because that was the only time the clouds came through. But it was always conducive for pretty good games. Like once you got over the heat element aspect, of course, there's that one outlier back in 2022, and it was like 3,000 degrees. But it is a real fun place to play football. The Bills travel extremely well. Weirdly, people want to go down to South Florida in November to go watch the boys play some football. It'll be 85 degrees, a little bit of sun. You don't want to make too much of it. And once the game gets flowing, the boys will be fired up.
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Yeah. Mitch, thanks for the time as always. We appreciate it. We will catch up with you next week.
I appreciate you, fellas. Take it easy.